Hi there. In this video, I'll teach you the right way to handle fluid typography within Elementor and all the wrong ways that you should absolutely avoid. So stick with me. Now, here's the problem. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to make use of this demo page that I have created here. If we right-click on this demo page and click on Inspect, we come to this browser inspector in which I can make use of my responsive settings here. If I come up here to responsive and select this option, I have the opportunity to drag this around and just simulate how these fonts appear on different screen sizes. As you can see, the screen size is adjusting right here. Now, if we drag this down and notice how this font responds, we would notice basically nothing happening. Dragging this down, nothing. And there's something happened. Dragging it up, there, that's the jump. And here's another jump. Now, if you're here because of fluid typography, I'm sure you already know that that is just bad. And the reason why it's bad is because you really cannot tell the kind of device size that a person would use when it comes on your website. And because of that, it's very, very difficult to try to go through all of the device possible sizes and try to set them accordingly. The best way to address this would be to make use of fluid typography, which would simply mean adjusting the font size based on the current device size width. So if this is a fluid typography enabled website, we should have the font size reduced as I reduce the size of this screen. We'll see about that in a bit. Now, there's a tool I usually use to address my fluid typography concerns, and it's this website here at typescale.com. It doesn't quite do all the job, it just does a part of it for me. And what it does is basically just tells me the font scale to make use of. As you can see, this scale is balanced. It's visually balanced. You can see this is H1, H2, H3, and so on. You can adjust the scale here to whatever your intention is, depending on your design. But I usually stay at 1.250, which is the major third here. Now, here is how I basically make use of this. Within Elementor, I want to come to Site Settings right here. Once I click on Site Settings, I'll come down here to Typography. You would notice that right now, the way it is set up is that each of the heading items, heading 1 through 6, are all set up a bit manually, I would call it, because each of them, this is the size and RAM for H1, and that's just for the desktop. You can also come down to tablet and see a different font size, and then come down to mobile and see a different font size. And it just gets very, very difficult to manage it this way. Apart from that, it's also impossible to tell, as I said before, the range of device sizes that you can encounter. Now, to address this, we would want to use the font scale here to create what we know as clamp functions. What are clamp functions? To generate a clamp function, let's make use of this other website called clamp.fontsize.app. Here, I'm going to put the link in the description to these two tools so you can make use of them when you wish. Now, to just explain this a bit, the minimum viewport width here is the smallest device size at which you want the smallest font size to kick in. In other words, when any device is smaller than 500 pixels, that device will have assuredly a font size of 2.3 RAM. Any device that's bigger than 500 viewport width, pixels of viewport width, and is up to 1920 pixels, that device will have up to 3.125 RAM. Now, if any device is bigger than 1920 pixels in viewport width, that device will not have a font size that's bigger than the maximum font size here. That device will, of course, have the font size 3.125 RAM. Stay with me. Now, in order to calculate and generate the clamp function, we need first to set both the minimum viewport width and the maximum viewport width. I keep mine at these values, 500, 1920. Just because generally this is how I set it up for my own web design. For some, they decide to set a different size here as their maximum viewport width, but generally this will depend on the brand guide you're using. Next, how do I determine my maximum font size? For my H1, I will come here to the type scale, and what I will do is to select the major third. This is the scale I intend to use for all of my large font sizes. Now, I'd grab the font size here for the H1. I'd come to my clamp, and I'm going to drop in that font size there, 3.185. There it is. I'm going to do the same thing for the minimum font size, except this time I'm going to go 2 steps lower to the major second and set that as the smallest font size for the H1 on any small device size. Once I set that, I can copy the value here, 2.027 rem, and paste that in here as the minimum font size. Now I have my clamp function generated. I can copy this, but I'm not going to put it in Elementor just yet. Let's put it inside of this address bar and try to make some modifications because Elementor really cannot take it this way. What I'll do is to take off the semicolon here and also take off this part where you have font size and a colon. I'm going to take all of that off. And this is what we're left with. And this is what we're really going to use within Elementor. So I'm going to copy that and come inside Elementor. And this is where some people get it wrong. Usually, and I've watched a lot of videos explaining this, and they always get this part wrong, they come here and put it inside of the H1 settings. On the site settings, typography, you have H1 right here, and some people would put it inside of here. They would come and select the pencil icon here, which would of course allow you to select any font size unit you want to set, and they will paste in the clamp function right here. And it appears to work. I mean, it does work. If you come down to the tablet view, you can see it reduced in size. Oh no, it's not kicking in just yet because we still have it selected here. So let's take this off, and we'll also come to the mobile and take it off here. Now we can see that it's gonna work the way we want it to. In fact, if we just come here, I'm gonna save this. Let's just save changes and come to the front end, and let's refresh this. And let's see if the first H1 uses fluid typography as we would expect. Now, let's minimize the screen size. First, we'll refresh, so we have the up-to-date version of the page. And then let's try to resize it. Can you take note of what is happening to the H1 font? It reduces as the size of the screen reduces. So the device size controls, essentially, the font size. And that makes absolute sense because whatever the font size is now, it's just going to work. However, this is the wrong way to do this. And here is why it's wrong. Because sometimes when you try to build a website, on certain pages, you want your H1 to still be a H1 semantically. Let's close this out and just check it out for 1 minute. We need the H1 to still be a H1 semantically, I mean selected here as a H1, but we need it to look like a H2. And that's where the problem begins to arise. And this is the reason why some web developers would have their H1 selected instead as a H2 because they want it to look like a H2. But they cannot do that because there is no way to set it. If they come to typography here, there is no H1 to select from. And that is the problem. Now, in order to fix this, here's what you do. Come back to site settings and let's select that font size again. This time, instead of going into typography, we're going instead into global fonts. Yes, this is where it gets interesting. We can add a style. And when we click on add style, we type in manually heading 1. Or whatever else we want to call it. Some people would call this XXL, whatever you want to call it whatever you want. Now at this point, you select the typography, leave everything else as is, and just come to size select the pencil icon there, paste in that font size, that clamp function. Remember the clamp function we generated? That's where you paste it in, and you're done. Not yet. Come back after you save changes. You need to save changes. Just come back to the typography here, the typography option here, and you need to come here to H1, and instead of setting it using the pencil icon here, you just click on the global option here and select H1. Now this makes a ton of sense, because now after you save changes and you come back to the canvas, even if you want a H2 to look like a H1, you can do that. You can select the H2 here, come to style, on the typography, select the H1 style. Semantically, this is still a H2. It's not a H1, it's a H2, but it looks like a H1. And that's because now we have the power of the global fonts in our control to select whatever heading size style we want to apply. Now, for the rest of the items on this list, all of the rest of the heading sizes, I'm just going to speed through it. I don't want you to watch the boring stuff happen. And I'm going to set it up for all the other ones, apply them here, and we'll see what result we have as our final result. For the H2, you can see it in slow motion, feel free. But for the rest, I'm going to speed it up. Let's go. So for H2, I'm going to grab the font size. That's the font size, the maximum font size. I'm just going to paste it in here. That's it for H2. And then the minimum font size by selecting the major second. And I'm going to grab the H2 there, paste it inside of here. And I have my clamp function. I'm going to paste that in here, take off the semicolon, and grab all the others apart from the font size and the colon here. Bring that into Elementor. And instead of going to the typography, I'm going to go to global fonts, add in a new font, a new custom font, and call this heading 2. And if I want to call it XL, my choice, whatever, doesn't matter. Now we'll come here and select under the size, this pencil icon. And inside of here, I can paste in the font size and the generated clamp font function right here. If all of this is sounding interesting already, please do well to subscribe to my YouTube channel, as I'll be releasing videos like this once a week. By the way, I'm Toby Salami, a WordPress developer hoping to make dynamic WordPress website less of a pain for you. Let's go on. After adding the function for the H2, I'm going to come back here, after saving of course, to the particular heading on the typography, H1. And now on the H2, I can select that generated font. I don't see it here. What's the problem? Let's refresh. Sometimes it happens with Elementor. Let's see if it will show now. I'm back in site settings, click on typography, come down here to H2, and there you have it. So I can select that and it works fine. The first HTML tag is a H2, so we're going to semantically change it back to a H1. And now it looks good. Let's go on, speed through it, and finish up with the rest. And now we're done with it. Let's test it out to see how it works in the front end. First, we're going to refresh this. We're going to right click and click on inspect to see how it looks. and click on responsive. See if everything is responsive now. Look at that. Now all of the font sizes adjust based on the current screen size. And that makes a lot of sense. Once it gets to the defined 500 pixels width, as you can see here, they no longer adjust, as you can see. They remain one size and then begin to scale up all the way until they get to the specified maximum width, and they no longer continue to scale up. This is how responsive fluid typography should work, and this is how we should do it within Elementor. If you've gained much value from this video, I encourage you to please like the video, give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe, as it will definitely help this video to get to more and more people so that we can all know how to make use of this the right way. If you have any feedback, you can give me that in the comment below. Let me know if you need me to release any further videos on this or on any other topic relating to dynamic WordPress development. My name is Toby Salami again, and until next time, stay dynamic.